morning and welcome to DJNTV tonight. Tonight we're going to be digging into a kind of a really cool career with Brent. Brent Schmidt is with me tonight. Good evening, Brent.
Hey, what's up, John? How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Now, for those of you who've never been to a one of these symposiums they had up here in Minnesota, Ben and the crew, Brent, you were part of that in the lighting capacity. Is one of the many, many hats that you wear in the industry. So I'm kind of excited to dig into that, but let's kind of start right now. For those who don't know you, give us the little kind of elevator speech of where you are, kind of things you do today, and then we'll kind of build that whole, what brought you to today. So what type of things do you do, and where do you work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brent Schmidt from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been in the industry for about 15 plus years now, and I own a production company with AV. Lighting, sound production, and then I also own my own DJ company for doing weddings, corporate events, marquee things like that. And then I also kind of work in game ops for the Cleveland Cavaliers, but I also kind of work for pretty much all of our major sports teams in Cleveland here. So I DJ for the Cleveland Guardians, DJ for the Cleveland Monsters, which is our minor league hockey team to the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Cleveland Browns on game day. So kind of cover all sports spectrum here in Cleveland and do pretty much like you said, have a lot of hats here that I wear.
That you do. And we're going to get into digging into those much, much more as we get into the show a little bit farther. But who was that person that got you excited about music and getting you into this industry? Was that influential one in your younger years?
It was, to be honest with you, it was my brother.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of just like the role model. He was the older one, so he was kind of leading the way for me. When he was in college, he was trying to just make some extra money, so he got into DJing. And when he did his first like really big his own gear type events, he was like, Brent, I need you to come and be my roadie. Lug some cases, lug some speakers. And back then it was like the big Yorkville, 15-inch speakers that you had to put up on our wood frames that we made. So kind of just started that way. And then as I just started growing more and more, going on events with him, I really wanted to learn and kind of figure out like in my brain, I was like, what makes everything tick? Like, why is the speak on in here and how's it run, cable wise? How do I get music to play, or how do I get the lights to work with sound active mode back then? So kind of just started from there. And then I got more curious, and then I started reaching out to local DJs and, watching them doing their, routines in bars. And then from there, it was just like YouTube University, and kind of, just from there, that was kind of like the stepping stone. So pretty much everything came from my brother.
Sure. Was your brother really kind of into that tech side of it also, which seems to be kind of an area in which you've really kind of grasped onto, or was he more of the performance side, or what would?
He was more of the performance side, kind of like the showman. He was a great MC, and even sometimes too now we'll kind of get together and he'll MC some weddings for me. But pretty much it was, he was kind of like the front man, and I kind of was back behind there,
Sure.
hitting play on the computer, or switching songs or CDs at the time when we started. And then he kind of did his own thing. So I mean, he knew the basics, but it was, for me, it was like more important to learn what makes everything tick.
Mm-hmm. And as you were learning that part of it, of course, you mentioned getting the lights to function to the music. And at early on when you were doing that, I'm sure that you guys were almost feeling like you were creating some of that from scratch, because some of that capability didn't exist at that time.
Exactly. And the technology was getting a little bit better. Like we had the mirror type, thing. So we had to be really fragile with those, and understanding how can we be different in terms of the setup back then. And we kind of just started incorporating a little bit of, some trust totems, or, uplighting around the space to kind of just take, to make the presence of what our setup was back then just a little bit different than the standard old, 6-foot table and, a, tablecloth across it.
So when did you really start getting into the more elaborate type light shows? Because you obviously at the lighting symposium, you were showing some really cool skills when it came to programming lights and working with that. When did that really become part of your repertoire?
I would say probably 2015, 2016, when I kind of jumped into the sports world.
Okay.
I just had this curiosity of like, wow, like look at an arena or like a stadium and how are they programming these lights to do the looks that they want to do? Because when I first joined the Cavs, we just had, about 8 spotlight operators that were just spotlighting the mascots or the team, things like that. And then they started building and having more intelligent lights and wash lights built into their show. So it's like, okay, how are they getting there? Like, what's the procedure? And so from seeing it on a grand scale, I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I do this in a much more mobile and, just a rookie type thing, and learning the understanding of how DMX works, how time coding, and just the basic functions of the fixtures, and then from there building up my knowledge of, okay, now I can start pixel mapping. I can start utilizing 3D visualizers to really sit at home and program a light show where I don't have to sit at the warehouse and see the lights physically. So that's kind of like where that started to build. It was like the curiosity of, okay, I want to do that. How do I get there?
And that inspiration was kind of in that 2015. When did you start working then? Was that about the time you started working for some of these sports teams, or when did that come about?
Yeah, so 2015, 16, I got in right actually before, if any sports fans out there, I got onto our promo team right before LeBron James came back to Cleveland. So we had that season, and then he came back, and of course everyone wanted to work for the team, and the team started to become good. And then of course we won in 2016 championship. And then I also then worked for the Cleveland Guardians as one of their, again, promo teams, but then also started to get curious with, you could probably see behind me, the Blue Man Group posters. I have a really big, I wouldn't say obsession, but like, I just love them. Like, this is definitely a dream job for me down the road here, is to be part of the Blue Man Group. But I wanted to perform. So they had, mascots. So, I started building my chops for mascotting for the Cleveland Guardians. So we have one main mascot and then 3, I guess, minor mascots in our show. So started doing that, and then Browns and Monsters kind of just fell from there, just doing work at the Cavs and also at the Guardians. So everything kind of just like everything was like a stepping stone from one thing led to another, to the next, to the next, to the next, and here we are sitting talking with you.
Yeah. So it really became one of those situations that once you proved yourself, it was easier to open the door.
100%. Absolutely.
So
and taking the risks and taking the risks of like, okay, I don't know this. I want to get as much knowledge as I can to figure out how I can become the expert, or just have more knowledge about this, so that I can then take the next step and leap and have that person take their leap of faith into me to produce whatever that they're trying to do.
So let's dig into that. The beginning part of that. How did you get in front of the right person? Do you get to this point where someone says, "Hey, we want you to work with our team to create something cool for the atmosphere there"? How did you go from I'm a DJ and I'm working with my brother, I'm doing our mobile things, whatever, to the point where you're now on there and helping program?
Yeah, I think it really came down to meeting the right people and showing them that I not mean business, but that I have the drive, that I have the ambition to, work in quick environments, especially with the sports world. Things happen like in a split second. So you have to think and react in those moments to do whatever the case may be. So it was building that trust and even the respect from those individuals to then know that okay, this person, Brent, he has my back no matter what. And then from there, those people got bumped up into even more important roles that kind of just help open the doors to more opportunities and to more opportunities in that sense.
So it really became a situation that when they brought you in, part of your job was to make those above you look good, like it is for a lot of us, and that helped
100%.
that progression to expand your repertoire and go to different sports teams.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I kind of taking that kind of step back again before you started with that first sports team. Did you have a portfolio you were able to show them, or was it something that you were really kind of selling them on that team? You're being part of their team there and working with them. I mean, how did you get them to put that trust in you right off the bat?
It really came down to, getting on the right team. So when I was working with my brother, he reached out to a local multi-op company, and he started getting more bookings from that because, he was, college kid. So he was doing stuff, during the summertime. So he was like, I didn't want to do the marketing and the selling and all that stuff. So if I can find someone that could help me get to that point to get booked, hey, that's great. So then I kind of just fell kind of in the same footsteps as him, reached out to the owner. He's like, well, once you've, finished college, come back and then, we'll talk about, opportunities here to kind of do your own events. So then once we finished everything there, I pretty much approached him, and he was like, hey, like, come on board. We'll give you like the small, jobs, the 4th of July parades, or, just the small events that, the company still had to handle because they had the contracts and all that stuff.
Sure.
So I started doing those and, grinding my teeth and really, trying to make a name for myself on the DJ side. And then also on the production side, it was like, okay, new technologies coming out, better microphones and speakers and things like that. So it's like, okay, how can I take my knowledge that I'm learning from myself, and how can I help this company, get to the next step, or help them in services that they're offering to their clients. So then I kind of became like one of their in-house, lighting people, pretty much tech guru for the company. And then from there, it was just like, okay, building more trust and with not only, the management, but then also too, like with their clientele. And then as I started growing from there, I was like, okay, I started buying my own stuff, for not only my own events that I was doing, but then their events. It's like, okay, this is getting better. And I was making money. So pretty much all the money I was making was going towards getting, newer technology and kind of just reinvesting myself. From there, I was like, I think I have enough stuff to like do it on my own. So then I started doing my own events, booking my own stuff. And then at one point I was like, hey, like, I'm going to do this, myself, and kind of go from there. And that's kind of pretty much the fairy tale of, where my company is now, both on the DJ side and production, even with the light design as well.
Mm-hmm. One thing you've mentioned a couple of times so far in our interview is the concept of being able to help the people that you're working with, help them to sound better, look better, what have you. But you've used that phrase a couple of times of to help them. And for those of watching, I think that's a great attitude when it comes to, we're not here to sell them services. We're here to help them in, going to extend it, solve problems and whatever those problems may be. But going into it, I think with your attitude of wanting to help them was a huge part of your early success.
Absolutely. And I would say that's kind of now more of the building block that I'm using now with my current company. And when I'm talking to potential clients, future clients, or even clients that I have right now, is that there's no I in team. We're all in this together. If we're doing an event, we're all in the trenches. So how can we work together as one to offer different solutions? Now, there might be things that I might have sitting in my warehouse that could help benefit the setup for the volunteer staff, where I can just, hey, call someone up, grab it from the shop, bring it here, so that we're all in this together to help build. Because if you build them up, you're going to follow right behind them, kind of just like how my brother, like I just followed suit with him, and then with other people that I've worked with as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great example and a great lesson for the viewers out there, because it works. It definitely works. So your production, you were doing, obviously we've been talking sports teams, but you've done a variety of different things. So let's talk about some of the other production types of clients and what those productions look like a little bit.
Yeah. So when I first started out, it was, I was nervous as all get out, because that person was paying you money, trusting you to produce their events in whatever capacity. It could be just a microphone and a speaker and two people are there and that's all they really needed, or someone that is, the president of the United States, where you had all your eyes, ears, and you had to make sure all of the lighting looked perfect and exactly what the specifications are. So,
And you're not embellishing there. You actually you did sound for the president.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I did lighting.
Yep. Or you were involved with because we saw the pictures.
Yep. At the symposium.
Yep. That was pretty awesome.
That's a whole nother episode or show right there of like that whole experience. I can tell you that. But
that was neat to hear your stories on that one. But yeah, other productions. Yeah, let's keep.
What else do we have? I mean, again, with the sports teams, this past postseason for MLB, the Guardians trusted me in providing and executing CO2 for when the players ran out for their recognition. So every first home game of each series, they announced the whole staff and relievers and starters, things like that. So we had the opportunity to create these custom trust towers with CO2 and the tanks on it, and then some lights, so that when the players ran out, it kind of created that nice atmosphere for both photos and video for the scoreboard and also outside media. What else have we done? We've worked with nonprofits. We've worked with FBLA, which is the Future Business Leaders of America here in Ohio. We help produce their events, and I mean, a lot of nonprofits. I worked with another production company on the T-Mobile show, which we did 12 or 6 shows over like a 3-month span, and we went from like Dallas, San Francisco, LA, Washington, DC, Chicago, Orlando, all different types of cities, and working with different types of either union hands or just stage hands in general, and getting a show set up, within a couple of days, programming lights in different spaces and configurations, because not every show is the same. As we all know, as wedding DJs, not every venue is the same. So we have to adapt and relearn kind of how we can use what we have there and execute it and put it in a design creative way to kind of just elevate the show a little bit more, showcasing that, hey, we're in a different space, but we're going to make it work no matter what. So those are kind of like some of the productions that, I've kind of touched in kind of like a quick, couple seconds in my brain there.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that variety of things you were showing at the lighting symposium and some of the different looks that you've been able to create, and sometimes you're being very creative because of having to implement scenery or what have you into the looks, and you had some neat information there. That was a lot of fun. To look at. So. You mentioned weddings, and that you're still that's part of what you do. How much creativity when it comes to lighting and different things? I mean, when you're doing things for a sports team, you can be utilizing so many different tools to create moments and effects and what have you. When it comes to the weddings, are you able to still implement part of that, or does that is just not part of what your weddings can have because of the logistics of weddings?
I think that's another. It's a client promise that I have to my clients, is not only the music side of things, but also the design and the intentional value that we're putting there. Okay. So when I mean intentional value, like the physical setup and where we're going to place fixtures. I utilize a lot of the Astera Titan tubes and the Chauvet well sticks, things like that, to kind of allow me to use lighting in a different way. Now, every once in a while, I'll put them up on stands and kind of like the standard, tube look per se. But a lot of it, what we're trying to do is be intentional with it. So it could be a couple tubes by the grand entrance doors, or we're highlighting the head table, or we're even putting some by the bar, depending on how the bar looks. Mm-hmm. We're just being we're trying to immerse the whole space of that wedding into like what the client or the wedding planner is looking to have. So just having those tools there, and even uplights, pin spots, even movers as well are great tools and examples of, if you have them in your repertoire, in your inventory, use them, but use them in a different way that could, maybe be impactful for your client or for that wedding planner. And, hey, that could, in turn, bring you more business down the road, because you're not just setting up, playing music, tearing down, and heading home. Like you're showing the client or the planner you actually care and want to put on a great show for not only the music side, the tech side, but also the design of what you're trying to do with your setup.
How often do you think, when you're doing weddings and such, and you've set up a very nice, unique experience with lighting specifically, how often do the guests notice? I mean, is it one of those things that people are like, oh, wow, that's really cool? Or is it one of those things that, oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun, we danced and had a party? You know, sometimes they don't pay attention as much as you and I do.
Right. Oh, 100%, 100%. And I think that's the key there. I almost don't want people to notice. I want them to kind of almost second, like you can see them during dinner. They're kind of like, they're thinking about it, because they're like, this is different.
Sure.
And it could be, maybe the color temperature, the intensity of the lights, increases by 10%, in the app or on the console, whatever they might be. But it's that small little thing, or the lights are fading from, your uplighting is fading from amber to a nice pure white type look. Just very subtle things. So it's almost even my goal, and I even tell my assistant this, that like we almost don't want feedback. We don't want to be like, hey, are the lights changing right now? Because you kind of want to give them that curiosity of like, okay. And just let them, be in the moment type thing.
Sure, I can definitely see that, because that it's kind of like a basketball referee. If they're doing their job and they're doing it well, people are enjoying the game and they don't pay attention to the referees that much. And really,
absolutely,
it's a similar situation. Do you, as far as with the weddings, then are you doing site visits and such to be able to program and plan lighting out, or how are you able to customize those shows for each wedding you're going to?
Yeah, a lot of what I've been doing is kind of, majority of them are day of. We do get there a little bit earlier than normal, so we can kind of see the space, because a lot of times we've went to site visits, and we still do site visits when necessary, especially in a new space. But places that I've been to, and I kind of know what is kind of the general setup, specifically if they're like, oh yeah, we've been to X, Y, and Z place before numerous times, and this is the same setup that we've done numerous times. Cool. We know how we're going to kind of, tweak and work the room. But if it's a wedding planner that we're working with in a space that we have worked in, but they're going to just change things up, like have florals coming from the ceiling, things like that. It's like, okay, how can I incorporate the lighting in a way that's is subtle, that you don't almost not even notice that it's there. So I would say, a lot of it is day of, and I bring a lot of tools with me.
Sure.
And it sounds, you're probably thinking like, this guy's like unprepared or whatnot. Like,
Nope.
I really am prepared. I have an idea in my mind, because if I go there prior to the wedding day, there's going to be obstacles that I don't think of, or things change from
exactly,
site visit to exactly. So you're seeing it like fresh, like this is it. Like there is no changing this, that, or whatever it might be. So yes, site visits are definitely important. But for me, like I want to walk into that space and be like, okay, my brain can go free, think super quick. And then by the time we're ready to start like putting lights where we need them, I have a game plan and an idea of how this is going to look.
Yeah, because when I asked the question, the idea of, we go to those site visits, we're there before the room is set, and then the day or the day of or the night before, when they set the room, they're like, "Ooh, hey, let's do this instead."
Exactly, and 100%. And I have actually worked with a couple other DJs that hired me to come do light design, where the original thought was, hey, we're gonna, a good friend of mine, they built a whole truss structure, and it was like 13 feet up in the air. They had florals coming down. And the original thought was take, excuse me, tubes and put it, attach it to the truss, and then shine down on the dance floor.
Sure.
And then when we got there, we were setting up, and it was at height level. And I was like, what if because the florals were hanging from like these custom ladders that were tied to the truss. So I was like, what if we take our tubes, put it on top of the ladders, shine down onto the dance floor, and it's going to illuminate not only the florals, which were like a white, I think they were a real flowers, a white color, but not only we're going to get the florals to look great and illuminated, but we're also going to light the dance floor. So
Sure.
we're not only we're hitting two birds with one stone type thing. And then I was also able to do color chases, back and forth, and kind of almost do like a cool pixel mapped show just within that day. So that's a really great example of how like things are going to change. The only thing, if I were at a site visit and we were really focusing on like pin spots for the florals or the tables or whatever it might be, I want to know what kind of magnetic surfaces that I have to deal with, and like where are those positions going to be? Is it going to be very far away that I need to have a really tight beam for it, or are they going to be nice and close where I need to have like a bigger wash because I need a bigger space to kind of throw color?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are kind of like the main ones, and also to load in like, do I have stairs to deal with? What, can this case fit in, all that stuff? Or ladder, like, do I have a ladder that's tall enough to get to whatever ceiling that we have?
Yeah,
so
a lot of the logistics there for sure. When you're with the events, and when you're doing the setups and such, you're utilizing a lot of your programming skills for DMX and what have you. That stuff changes so much. So you must be putting a lot of time to practice so that when you get there that day of, you're confident in your skills to be able to make whatever you want to make happen. But that means that you're spending time learning new versions, updating on what you can do with this light. How much time are you putting into that over the course of a month for just the practice back in the office side?
I would say over a week span of time. Now it's not consecutive,
right?
It's understanding, especially now with technology, new fixtures are coming out all the time. It's like you might have, like, a great example is the new Chauvet Intimidator 251 SR. That fixture is very similar to the 140 SR, but there's some differences to it. Now, at the time when I got it, the profile wasn't out yet for my specific console that I was using. Mm-hmm. So like, I was pretty much going through the old fixture profile with the new fixture and figuring out, okay, what's kind of like the same, what's different, so that when this does go on the road in whatever capacity, and I don't have that new updated profile, am I going to be able to get to a little bit deeper into the fixture with the current patch that I have? So yeah, it's almost like you're kind of troubleshooting without troubleshooting type ordeal. And also to just staying fresh on how programming works, because a lot of people, when they hear program, they get super scared about like what do I do? And it's just, thinking of it as like you're telling pretty much your phone to connect to the Wi-Fi. It's that simple, but there's multiple steps and layers to that to get to that step. Mm-hmm. And it's just knowing, a couple of weeks, or actually at the beginning of March, I had the opportunity to go down to Chauvet's headquarters and program their showroom to 2 DJ mixes that I created. And I got on a console that I have never worked with in my life. It's one of the Champsys Magic Cubes that we had at the Lighting Symposium. But this one, I just haven't worked on it ever. So I was working with one of their kind of technical people there. And, we were going through it, and I really only had one day to program two time-coded light shows to the 2 mixes. Mm-hmm. And by the next day I had like a late flight, so I stayed the second day and kind of just knocked out 2 shows with it. But everything is a language. It's figuring out, once you establish where everything is going to be there. Like once you figure out one console, everything else is there for other consoles, but it's figuring out how to get there.
Sure.
It's the journey, it's the path, and also the language. So once you figure out that, then you're smooth sailing. Mm-hmm. There might be things that might throw you off, and you're like, okay, like let's back up and think about, I need to get to here, but I need to do 2 extra steps, versus in my other console that I know really great, it's only actually 1 step. So it's understanding those types of things, and yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things, and as you say, you've run into different things. It becomes that mm-hmm. How do it's here somewhere. We got to find it. We got to make it right.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
let's like we're kind of talking gear just a little bit, and I want to continue and talk a little bit more about some of the sports stuff. But let's talk gear a little bit for someone who is wanting to get into controlling their lights and doing more in-depth things for their wedding shows. What do they have to get into for gear to kind of be a starter control, DMX control for their lighting? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think one of the great tools that Chauvet came out with is the ILS command.
Okay.
And that's not true DMX. So what you're pretty much utilizing is the auto programs that are built into the fixtures. But what you're doing is, instead of going to each fixture and saying, oh, I want auto program 1 now, or red, I want your wash to be red. Now you actually have a console to initiate all of that via DeFi, DMX, or DeFi USBs, or the ILS signal out from the console. And if you want red, boom, you can do that. You could set all your fixtures to red. If you want to make auto program 1 to start, you can do that as well. So that's a really great stepping stone into understanding signal flows and executing certain color or light programs that you're looking to do. Mm-hmm. Probably the next step from there is get into Show Express, because that is more of a true DMX controller. There's Sound Switch that's out there, which is really great, but they're kind of more designed for like taking the BPMs of your music and then putting your your light shows to the BPMs of the music. Another one out there is Wolf Mix, but that's kind of more of like an effects engine. I use that every so often to do quick one-off type things where I have a couple fixtures and like CO2, where I need lights to flicker, to strobe a little bit, and then shoot off CO2 type thing. So those are kind of some avenues that you can go down. ILS commands. And then jump into Show Express. And then from there, you can kind of jump into the Champsys world, or you can kind of get into Elation Onyx, which is a console that I use pretty frequent. It's a great starting level of DMX, but it can also get very complicated really quickly, depending on what type of fixtures that you have and what kind of shows you're producing. Mm-hmm. And when I mean fixtures that you have, like if you have, let's say, like an Astera tube, that can go up to, I think it's like 67 channels. So that's 67 channels of DMX that you can control. Or if you have a wash light, that's maybe 3 channels of DMX, and that's a little bit more easier to understand and kind of execute those types of colors. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would say, if you want to get into this, start slow and then start building your way up. Show Express is a little bit more computer based versus like a hard console type thing where you like physically can control the lights. I know there's like a Kaya that is a MIDI controller that you can kind of MIDI map and do your fades and buttons and cues, things like that. But I think that's kind of you getting it more into the, I wouldn't say advanced, but like the next step into getting into the advanced setup of programming.
And Show Express has been one of those pieces of software in the little devices, the connecting devices. It's been around for a long time, so it's been field tested and it's been out there as a very reliable solution for lighting control.
100%, yeah, and to be able to have like your laptop there to have your shows designed, and there's great tutorials. There's a guy that's out there on YouTube that just, there's some things that like when I have to go back to Show Express to use for whatever show that I'm doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what I need to do, but I can't remember where to go. And I go to that YouTube channel, boom, oh, there it is. Okay, boom, 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 boom. I got what I needed now. Nice. So there's great tools out there from that. And yeah, it's very reliable. And even the boxes now are like super small if you're wanting to control one universe of DMX.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I have one of the early generations, and it was a pretty good sized box, but it still functions. I mean, as far as he plugs it in and off he goes with it.
100%. 100%.
So when Ben Stowe is doing some of his audio things, he's talking about doing using these big audio boards that you've used those, I'm sure, in some of your production. Do they have big lighting control boards like that are getting into that literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, or is that something that just doesn't exist in the lighting world?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Grand MA is probably your master of all master consoles. But again, that's that's up to the user. It's kind of like you're getting into the topic of
Mm-hmm.
Serato or virtual DJ, when it comes to the lighting aspect, where it's a console that you feel good on and you know that you can produce a great light show. MA is a console that you'll see pretty much on almost every single touring show, every maybe theatrical show that's in town or just anywhere. I think it's just been that name brand, that
Mm.
company that has mastered the masters of mastering lighting.
Master the
Um,
master,
but again,
mastering.
that's nothing against
Yep.
Elation. They have great consoles. Hog is another great company out there, and there's other companies that I can't think of right now
Sure.
that
Yep.
are they have their top stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's just user preference.
Yeah, very much so. So let's kind of drift back into the sporting thing, but now let's talk about it from the music side, because you spin at these events. You deal with the lighting and the CO2 and those different things, but you actually are playing music for a lot of these events. So tell us a little bit about what's involved with doing that side of it.
So music with these events is a little challenging because not only are you worrying about music selection, mixing with transitions, but now you're also almost on a headset with the game director or director of some kind calling other cues, talking to other techs professionals in that are on the comms. And then you also have to like keep in mind that you're listening to the music that you're playing, queuing up another song, but then you also have to keep in mind you have to listen for DJ, Brent, um, whatever other names that you might have in that industry with them, if they're giving you a cue like fade out DJ or DJ go or DJ change the music up or whatever type thing. um, those are that is definitely a skill that you have to definitely be comfortable with to be able to multitask, but also kind of be able to tune things out. Like when they're just chit chatting on comms and you're really focused on the music and transitions, things like that. Like you really have to kind of just tune it out, but also too you have to kind of keep an ear in the room because they might throw your name out there to for whatever kind of calls. But I mean, music is so important, especially in the sports world, and even with doing corporate events where you're doing like a live stream type thing where in front of a camera, you're not getting that like energy back from them is a little different
Sure.
and a little challenging because you're like, am I doing something right? And the only way you can know if you're doing something right with the music selection via virtual is in the chat, like whatever people are saying there, but you might not be able to see that or read it up to date with it. So having the experience and knowledge of knowing what works, what doesn't, but then also too throwing stuff that like is different, that is refreshed, refreshes of Motown tracks or EDM mixes that are a little bit different, that kind of just get people to feel different. I'm sure we'll probably talk about this later, but like sporting events and events in general are like a way for people to step out of their own realities and kind of just not think about the outside world for a couple hours and be able to just sit back, relax, be entertained from whatever way, like
Mm-hmm.
from sports, from music, from dinner, or whoever's talking on stage. It's really a way for guests and patrons to just forget. So you are a part of that show. So throw something at them, do
Mm-hmm.
something different. Be fun, be different. Music is music is music is the universal language. So people that are wanting to go to these events, like, hey, just do you.
How much, when it comes to music selection, how much of that is in your area, or is how much of it is being that, hey, we want these songs played at some point in time during the night, or I want a specific song played at the second time out, whatever. How much is on you, and how much is it is kind of picked from above?
I would say in terms of like player, one area that I would say is kind of picked is the player warmups.
Sure.
I work with a couple of the players via just researching their Spotify's. A lot of them are really social, so they have Spotify accounts, and if they're public, I do my research. And one of my coaches, Brian Bonacisi, is really great with digging deep into his clients and like really figuring out what makes them tick. And that's something that I took from him and kind of use in my sports world. So I wouldn't say everything is picked from them. I pretty much take like all of the ones that you just know over time. Over the sports season, I'm like testing out things and I'm seeing what is happening. And I'm getting feedback from the director, or I'm seeing people that are on headset. They're like, hey, like X player is vibing to this song. Okay, noted. Now we're going to put that more in rotation. So majority of that is picked, but again, I'm kind of including some others that I might think that might fit into that realm of that music. And then the other side of it, where it's either the corporate or the wedding side, where they're like, hey, here's are some songs that we really enjoy, we really like. If you can mix it in, that'd be great. If not, that's totally fine. Or if there's songs that you're like, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. I think Beautiful Things, I think it is. I found a really great remix of that is a little bit more upbeat, higher tempo, so that I could play it at a corporate events and not bring the energy down. And that's like a client favorite that they wanted. So it's
Sure.
like, okay, like if I can find that version and give it to them, that's just, brings me up and kind of gives them that, hey, the DJ is listening to our requests and kind of putting his own flavor into it, because we're also chefs too. Like I would say, like, yes, chef, like let the DJ cook, give me the ingredients. And then from there, let me mix it up, do what I need to do, and create, what I do as an artist.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of like the two different scenarios that I've been thrown at, and it works.
Yeah. So as you're talking about, songs that you're kind of working throughout, especially the early part of the season. So truly, you can be in mid-season form and you're getting ready. It fits into your world also.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And there's some songs that I find on let's say the hockey side. Hockey is very EDM and house music. I'll find remixes like Moonlight that are really great, that are old rock and roll songs like Born to Be Wild or Nothing But a Good Time by Poison. And he remixed them. Well, I can throw it into the hockey side of things, but now I can also throw it into corporate events or weddings, or even the baseball, because it's kind of, baseball is very, the old time game, like people just want old time rock and roll types stuff, and don't change the show too much. But if I can give them a little bit of taste of a little bit of old and a little bit of new, hey, it's a good mixture.
Very nice. Brent, our time is pretty much wound down here tonight. Wow, that went fast. Holy cats. Holy cats. Man with many skills, you've done a lot of things. People might have questions they'd like to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to be able to reach out to you?
Yeah, I would say hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram tag is Bang Bang Brent. You can find me on social there, or you can kind of just reach out, via my YouTube channel, The Lighting Inventory. I post there about lighting galore. So if it's product reviews or kind of tips and tricks on how to elevate your lighting production and things like that, that's another great avenue that you can reach out to and check out some of the videos. So yeah, those are kind of the two avenues. Nice.
Instagram or YouTube, and of course, there you go out there, search, you'll be able to find Brent and his efforts out there on the internet. So, thanks for being with me tonight. Again, tonight's show is brought to you by DJ Event Planner, DJEventPlanner.com. That link is in the description below. You guys can go check them out. They are one of these CRM tools that are out there for website management and event planning. Again, DJEventPlanner.com. Check them out. Brent, thank you very much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it and had a good time.
Thanks, John. We'll see you.
Hey, good night, everybody.